All right. Good morning. We are going to start. Probably we have more people joining in as we proceed with our observance of International Day of Cooperatives at the United Nations New York headquarters. I'm Wen-Yan Yang. I'm the Chief of Global Dialogue for Social Development branch in the Division for Inclusive Social Development. Our director, Ms. Daniela Bass, who is on the program, unfortunately, she has to go on a mission unexpectedly. So she's somewhere. She sends her personal greetings and her appreciation for all of you being here, and her greetings to the ambassadors, to cooperative colleagues. So I would do the honor to open today's program. Just very briefly, you have a draft program in front of you. We have 3 segments. The seating arrangements have been made so that people who are speakers and the moderators of each segment are seated together, so that we can save a little time and the logistical confusion of having to switch seats and all that. So just to let you know that you will be speaking from where you are sitting when this is when we proceed to your segment. And also today is going to be I think it's going to be very interesting and exciting that we actually have a documentary film to show cooperatives creating employment in the particular case of Nepal. And so we very much look forward to that. And then this, from here, I would make an opening remark on behalf of Ms. Bass. Your Excellency, Ambassador Amrit Ray, permanent representative of Nepal to the United Nations. Your Excellency, Ambassador Sukpo Sukhi, permanent representative of Mongolia to the United Nations. Welcome. Fellow COPAC colleagues, and excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this year's event at the United Nations New York headquarters, marking the International Day of Cooperatives. As we know, the actual day was last Saturday, 6 July, and many events took place all over the world to celebrate this important day. And we will be featuring some of the events on our website in the coming days. So do go to our website to check, to see highlights from exciting events globally. Our theme for this year's celebration is Cooperatives for Decent Work, which is very relevant in the context of Sustainable Development Goals. As you know, the high-level political forum this year is beginning tomorrow under the theme Empowering People and Ensuring Inclusiveness and Equality. One important enabler for people's empowerment and inclusive development and equality is, and for Sustainable Development Goals in general, is decent work. The opportunity to have decent work for all. Even though globalization has brought prosperity for many, the world is currently dealing with high and rising inequality, increased job insecurity, and high unemployment levels in many countries. For example, in 2017, the richest 1% of the global population owns 82% of the global wealth, while the poorest half, that's 50% of the global population, that amount to 3.7 billion people, saw no increase at all in their wealth. Since 1980, significant wealth has been transferred from public to private ownership in nearly all countries, thus weakening the capacity of national governments to tackle inequality. Take the example of the United States. The highest 1% of income earners almost doubled their share of national income between 1980 and 2016, from 11% to 20%. During the same time period, the poorest half, again, the poorest half of the population of the U.S., saw their share of national income almost halved, dropping from 21% to 13%. So at the top, you have doubling their share. At the bottom, the top 1% and the bottom 50% see their share of national income being halved. As people-centered enterprises and key development actors, cooperatives can play a very significant role in reversing these negative trends by creating decent jobs, leading to the social and economic empowerment of people and communities. Cooperatives have a significant presence in both developed and developing countries, serving more than 1 billion members or clients. As a group, they employ more than 100 million people worldwide, which is 20% more than all the multinational enterprises employ. They span almost all economic sectors, from international banking and finance to small-scale agriculture in low-income countries. And as new technologies are changing the way work is organized, especially in emerging areas like the platform economy, cooperatives also have a role to play in mitigating the creeping erosion of labor standards. In other words, there is much room for cooperative enterprises in the new economy. Dear friends, I'm pleased to note that our celebration today will feature presentations of cooperatives in action around the world, promoting decent work and inclusive development. We are pleased to have Sarah Vicari and Andrea Marcori with us. They are two filmmakers who spend time documenting cooperatives and decent work in Nepal. And they will be presenting and screening the film shortly, and then we can also engage in discussion with them. And welcome to the United Nations. We are also lucky to have with us the permanent representatives of Nepal, who will shed more light on cooperative action in Nepal. And this year, the UN Secretary General will also present his report on cooperatives in social development, a biannual report mandated by General Assembly resolution. I'm grateful to the permanent representative of Mongolia for being with us today and for your continued support in promoting the role of cooperatives. Mongolia also submitted her national voluntary presentation for the HLPF on national actions taken to implement the General Assembly resolution on cooperatives. This will be very informative and illustrative of the connection, the organic connection between cooperatives and the 2030 agenda. And thank you for presenting the reports and for sharing the reports with us. And we use it as information for also the SD reports that we prepare on behalf of the Secretary General. So with these words, let me now hand over to Your Excellency Amrit Ray, Permanent Representative of Nepal to the United Nations, for your opening remarks. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, my dear brother, His Excellency Sukhi Sukhwold, Permanent Representative of Mongolia to the United Nations, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I'd like to thank the organizers for the invitation and the excellent arrangements made for the event. As we commemorate 25th United Nations International Day of Cooperative and 97th International Cooperative Day, this year's theme, Cooperatives for Decent Work, is well suited for our conversation when the future of work is going through a profound transformation due to rapid innovation in frontier technology. Moreover, the theme speaks itself in the context that inequality within the countries remain unabated and high unemployment levels persist despite our effort to tackle them. Also, the choice of theme resonates with the agenda of HLPF, which is beginning tomorrow, as the forum will review SDG 8 on decent work and economic growth as well. Principle of collective action based on equality, people-centered approach, and democratic member control, which lie at the core of cooperatives, make it an important vehicle for inclusive development and decent work. Cooperatives have played an important role in mobilizing saving, widening investment in a small business, and inculcating the entrepreneurial spirit. Their bottom-up approach has also contributed a great amount in addressing the challenges associated with unemployment, lack of income stream, among others. The empowering nature of cooperatives, especially for its members, cannot be overemphasized. Cooperatives are an effective vehicle to provide financial services in rural communities where commercial banks and financial institutions are reluctant to operate. Nepal has a long cultural tradition of informal community-based cooperatives, including saving and credit cooperatives, grain savings, and labor pooling systems. Similarly, socio-cultural association called GUTI provides a forum to work together for smoothly running different socio-cultural practices. Many of these traditional systems of cooperation are deeply embedded as integral parts of Nepalese society. The cooperative spirit, therefore, forms the core of Nepali society. Despite country's old social practice of cooperatives in Nepal, they were started to emerge as formal organizations since 1950s. In 1953, the Department of Cooperative was established to coordinate, train, and monitor the cooperative sector. More importantly, Nepal's present constitution envisages cooperative sector as a distinct pillar of Nepal's economy. Our national plans have espoused the principle of partnership between public, private, and cooperative sector. In the areas where the presence of public sector as well as market is not enough, cooperatives play an important role in mobilizing, saving, and providing microcredits. Such inclusive approach has been helpful in elevating the livelihood of small farmers, rural entrepreneurs, increasing decent work opportunities, and has also contributed in empowering women and marginalized communities. The short documentary from Nepal being screened here today presents one example of such role played by the cooperatives. I hope I should not explain more since the filmmaker are already here. They will explain what it is about. When we talk of decent work, I'd also like to touch on the issue of future of work. Rapidly expanding frontiers of technology has brought many uncertainties in the world of work. To adapt and tap the fruits of technological development, we must prepare our workforce for the world of work of tomorrow. Possible mismatch between skill supply and the nature of jobs must be addressed before the gaps widen rapidly. Cooperatives can also play an important role here in skill generation by organizing training for their members and communities and reorienting their skills. Such efforts are crucial in advancing the inclusive development and decent work agenda. I hope that the discussions today will contribute in upscaling our efforts in this important area and deliberate on the important role of cooperatives in bringing forward left-out communities in the spirit of leaving no one behind. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ray. Indeed, there's much room for cooperatives to play important roles, both in terms of creating decent work opportunities in the existing economic structure, as well as addressing the future of work and the new challenges that we face in the world of work. With those words, I now turn around to give the floor to His Excellency Ambassador Soki, Permanent Representative of Mongolia. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you, Excellency Ambassador Amrit, the Permanent Representative of Nepal, and also DESA for organizing today's event. Excellencies, dear friends, and ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to congratulate all of you with the 2019 International Day of Cooperatives. Mongolia is, as a main sponsor of the UN GA resolution on cooperatives and social development, I am pleased to take part of this event. Cooperatives play an important role in achieving SDGs as they promote sustainable development in all its three dimensions: social, economic, and environmental. In paragraph 67 of the 2030 Agenda, cooperatives were acknowledged as an integral part of the private sector, whose role in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda was highlighted as a driver of productivity and job creation. Widely recognized as a self-help tool to create more economic opportunities, cooperatives contribute about 7% of the world gross domestic product, and they create more jobs than their corporate counterparts and invest in innovative approaches to wider societal problems such as natural resource management and access to education and healthcare. Dear friends, cooperatives have been playing an important role to the Mongolian economy and society. I would like to highlight some of Mongolian experiences with the cooperative sector in recent years. The draft revised law on cooperatives were submitted to the Parliament in 2018 and is planned to be adopted this year. The draft law incorporates new contexts, including specified requirements on the membership recruitment, on cooperative activities and their principles, types of cooperatives, membership number, strengthened accountability, and rights of cooperatives as business entity. Furthermore, clarified activity coordination on the establishment of cooperatives, monitoring and management of the activities of cooperatives are also reflected in this new revised law. According to the National Statistical Office of Mongolia, as 2017, 4,400 cooperatives are registered at the Business Registry Fund, increased from previous year by 123. Nearly one-third of the cooperatives, or 30%, are engaged in agriculture and 32% are in trade. Employment Promotion Fund was established to support employment of micro-entrepreneurs in the form of self-governing entities and cooperatives. In the last 2 years, the fund provided 4,800 lenders with approximately $9 million in all 21 provinces and 9 districts of the capital city, where has enabled to keep 4,000 jobs and to create 3,000 new jobs. Of the above the borrows, 325 or 7% were micro-entrepreneurs in the form of community-based cooperatives, and these borrowers were provided approximately $6 million in small loans. In addition, micro-business entrepreneurs provided with the business incubation service under the Employment Promotion Program. Around 70% of micro-entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized enterprises in last 2 years participated in the entrepreneurship trainings, and about 30% received support in sales and workplace leads. The incubator center at the Information Technology Park of Mongolia was established with a view to encourage the startup companies by providing them efficient working places. There were 4 enrollments during 2 years, and total of 20 startup companies have been chosen to grow up in the incubator. By the end of 2018, the 5 startup companies graduated successfully to function on their own. Also, within the framework of the Asian Development Bank's additional funding for agriculture and rural development project, technical assistance and equipment worth of the $4,880,000 US dollars will be provided to the selected herders and cooperatives. Dear friends, we envisage to keep learning from international experience of cooperatives, as in previous years, in order to develop the national small and medium-sized industries. At the end, I wish to reiterate my congratulations with the International Day of Cooperatives. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Sukhi. And thank you for sharing the very important and innovative experiences of Mongolia. And I think that we do need more of such examples and to reflect the contributions of cooperatives. And thank you very much for being here today and for sharing with us. So now I pass the floor to the next segment moderator, Georgia. You have the floor. You take over.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Wen Yang. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Excellencies, Permanent Representative of Nepal and Mongolia, distinguished representatives of COPAC, ladies and gentlemen, cooperators. It is a pleasure to celebrate with you this year's International Day of Cooperatives on behalf of the International Cooperative Alliance, the voice of the cooperative movement at the global level, representing 1.2 billion of the cooperative members and the 10% of employment of the total employed population. This year's theme, Cooperatives for Decent Work, is particularly relevant for the whole world, considering not only the 100 years of the ILO, but also the global challenges like climate change, migration, and the transformative world of work, global challenges that they do have a great impact at local communities. Cooperatives as people-centered businesses characterized by democratic control, prioritizing human development and social justice within the workplace, can be a response to such challenges at multiple levels. The missing middle, as some of us would like to say, that enable communities to own and govern joint economic tools to solve their most central needs through democratic ownership and participation, leaving no one behind. On one hand, cooperatives, they help poor and marginalized people and communities to be lifted out of informality, as recognized by ILO Recommendation 204. At the other end, they keep innovating in the world of work, like in the new freelancers cooperatives, community cooperatives, and cooperative platforms. Coops go beyond economic growth, generating inclusive and sustainable growth for all. It is important to link the local needs at a global political discourse, such as the future of work. And for that reason, ICA, with the support of its members and in collaboration with like-minded organizations, has worked towards the reinforcement of the recognition of cooperatives as important drivers for decent work, productive employment, and improved living standards for all in the ILO Centenary Declaration for the Future of Work. As global actors that have a great role to play in achieving a fair, safe, and inclusive world of work, ICA has also approved during its last General Assembly, or already last year, a declaration on decent work and against harassment, by which the cooperative movement at large commits itself to respect, promote, and act diligently to support the fundamental tenets of decent work towards a more inclusive future of work, and defends the basic principles of dignity, equality in the new and emerging forms of employment. Noteworthy to mention that during the same period, the work on statistics through the partnership with the COPAC members has also brought great results. The guidelines on the statistics of cooperatives that will allow all of us to track the contribution of cooperatives to decent work. Talking about partnerships, I could not omit the political partnership of ICA with the European Commission, ICA-EU partnership, Coops for Dev, as some of you will see in the tote bags that they are around, which since 2016 has been strengthening cooperatives to fulfill their role as key actors on development and as vehicles towards decent work. It is this partnership with the EU that gave us also the opportunity to collaborate with Sarah and Andrea, that they are sitting next to me, in this inspiring project of AroundTheWorld.coop, a project that aims to show how cooperatives work as a catalyst to societal challenges, empowering communities to achieve sustainable livelihoods. If you allow me, I will introduce you a bit to dear fellow filmmakers next to me. Andrea Mancari is a filmmaker and video editor with 15 years of experience working with and for TV networks such as Fox International Channel, National Geographic, and others. One of his most rewarding professional experiences was the editing of a documentary film, The Summer of Sammy by National Geographic. Andrea is a movie lover and passionate about traveling. In Around the World Co-op, he is responsible for video making activities. Andrea, thank you for being here today. I'm passing to the lady next to Andrea, Mrs. Sarah Vicari. Sarah Vicari is a participatory action researcher who is passionate about cooperatives and their role in poverty reduction. She has built this knowledge working with cooperative organizations, international institutions, and academia, directly carrying out and supervising field research in several countries. Sarah loves traveling, cooking, as an Italian, I could use this stereotype, and spending time with people. She is also passionate about writing. Among her publications, there are several scientific articles, as well as her first novel in Italian, coming out soon by Deutsche Human Publisher. In AroundWorld.coop, she is responsible for research activities. I would like to thank Sarah and Andrea for being here in New York today, but also for collaborating with us in this amazing project. Sarah and Andrea, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Georgia, for this very nice introduction. And so, Madam Chair Young, His Excellency Permanent Representative of Nepal to the United Nations, His Excellency Permanent Representative of Mongolia to the United Nations, distinguished COPAC members, and other representatives here today, fellow cooperators around the world. It's an honor for Andrea and myself to join you today to celebrate the International Day of Cooperatives and to share with you our project, the Around the World.coop project. Let us tell you a bit about our story. It all started more than 1 year ago now. Andrea and I had a dream, combining our respective jobs, already introduced by Georgia, and traveling for 1 year, telling stories of innovative, inclusive, successful cooperatives around the world. At the beginning, it was just a dream, but then, step by step, we managed to turn this dream into reality. We found a great partner, the International Cooperative Alliance, who believe in us, in our dream, and to which we'll be always extremely grateful. We did our pilot video in August with a social cooperative in Castelvolturno, a very small town in the south of Italy. And then, starting from January, we've been in Morocco, Rwanda, Nepal, Malaysia, Australia, California, now New York, and then we'll continue through Latin America to come back home only in October, and then continue with other cooperatives in Europe. You might wonder why we wanted to engage in such a project. We think it's under everyone's eyes that the world is increasing complexity. You already mentioned this morning in your speech, we are facing many global challenges that have deep impact at community level. Climate change, poverty, migration, inequalities, youth employment, gender inequality, just to name a few. These are all complex problems to which too often some people are tempted to respond with binary answers, while supporting the thesis that solidarity, reciprocity, mutuality are old-fashioned values, as all human beings, according to these people, are moved only by self-interest. However, we all know that communities in many parts of the world are showing that the reality is different. Although with different cultural, historical, economic, social backgrounds, they engage in collective action to help each other, provide themselves with decent work, find together innovative solutions to their problems, make their contribution to leave this world better than how they found it. And this is what our stories are about. We wanted to hear from the voice of cooperators how genuine cooperatives, proper bottom-up democratic organization, make the difference in transforming their lives and those of their families and community in many places of the world, ultimately contributing to sustainable, inclusive human development. So in order to do that, we developed a participatory methodology. We usually spend 10 days, at least 10 days, with cooperators. We engage with them in a deep reflection about the effects the cooperative has had on their lives. And then we film, letting them to tell to the world their own story of self-reliance and human development. And no need to say, for us, it has been a huge learning experience. Out of any type of difficulties, cooperators, that is to say, for instance, family farmers in Nepal, workers in Morocco, in California, students in Malaysia, artists in Australia, by collectively sharing knowledge and ideas, they've been drivers of innovation, and by setting up successful cooperatives, they've improved their lives and brought inclusive development in their communities. Key for success in most of the cases has been the presence of highly motivated and committed members, as well as of visionary and accountable leaders, the possibility to access to tailored training on both soft and hard skills, and to peer-to-peer mutual exchange, the presence of effective apex organization and other external players that manage to effectively respond to their needs. The study you will watch today is one of them. I don't want to spoil it, we don't want to spoil the story, but just to conclude, we want to share what we would like to share with you, a very simple thought we come up after all this sharing with cooperators. It's nothing new, of course, but just something we believe is important. The cooperative is definitely a unique space to provide decent work, and decent work is definitely more than fair wage and social protection. It's the opportunity to free themselves from slavery condition. The cooperative is their family, the place where members can engage in meaningful relations, increase in self-confidence, create a future, and make it bright. Thank you all again for giving us this opportunity to share with you a bit about our project and the cooperators we have met so far. We'll let you now watch the story of this Nepalese agricultural saving and credit cooperative, whose name in English means exactly future creation. Enjoy.
अनि त्यहाँबाट अलिअलि अब कृषिमा नि बस्नु त पहिल्यै बसेँ ऋण लिएको मलाई डर लाग्थ्यो के अलि डर लाग्थ्यो ऋणहरू कसरी तिर्ने होला जस्तो लाग्थ्यो अब अहिले 2 लाख लिएको छ ट्र्याक्टरको लागि यहाँको खेतीको लागि
अनि त्यहाँबाट लोन लिएर तरकारी खेती अनि त्यसपछि पशुपालन गर्दै आइरहेको छु हैन
सहकारीले के गर्यो भन्दा पनि सहकारीले हामीहरुलाई लोन प्रवाह गरेर 2% को लोनमा प्रवाह गरेर गाई मैँसी पाल्ने एउटा जमरको अभियान सहकारीले गर्दियो
अनि त्यसैले हामीले चाहिँ त्यहाँबाट लोन पनि लिएर फर्महरु खोल्यो अस्ति न त्यो राङहरु नि पालेको थियो हामीले फर्म छ उता सतखेलमै छ अहिले बस्ने ठाउँमा
पहिला मसँग यहाँ एउटा कन्या च्याउ थियो, अहिले गोब्रे च्याउ हालेको छु। तल हामीसँग काउली, त्यसपछि गोलबेडा, लसुन, यो धेरै कुराहरू बढ्दै 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 गइरहेको छ।
पहिला नि धेरै 2-4वटा भैँसी ल्याएँ, त्यहीँबाट ऋण झिकेर। त्यसपछि चाहिँ मलाई फाइदा नभएपछि अलिक घाटा लाग्यो होइन। अनि अहिले फेरि अर्को ऋण झिकेर फेरि भैँसी ल्याएँ, अनि अहिले चाहिँ त्यही भैँसीबाटै राम्रो भइरहेछ, भैँसीकै लागि हो।
86,000 छ है, 86,000 छ। चेक बनाउनु समुदायमा चाहिँ कस्तो थियो भने हामीहरूको गाउँमा चाहिँ एकजना जो धनी व्यक्ति हुन्छ, जसलाई हामी चाहिँ नेपालीमा साउ भन्छौँ, उहाँहरूसँग हामी चाहिँ कर्जा माग गर्थ्यौँ। उहाँहरूले चाहिँ कर्जा दिँदाखेरि चाहिँ अलिकति चर्को ब्याजमा चाहिँ लगानी गर्नुहुन्थ्यो, जसले गर्दा चाहिँ उहाँहरूले जुन बेला बोलायो हामी त्यही बेला काम गर्न जानुपर्ने हुन्थ्यो। अनि त्यसले गर्दाखेरि कहिलेकाहीँ आफू जान पाएन भने आफ्नो बच्चाहरूलाई पनि पढ्न जान छोडेर भए पनि हामीले गाउँमा पठाउनु पर्ने हुन्थ्यो। केही न केही धितो राख्नुपर्ने, जग्गा हुनेहरूले जग्गा राख्थ्यो, अनि जग्गा नहुनेहरूले चाहिँ युवाहरू चाहिँ अलिअलि भएको जग्गाहरू साउकोमा राखेर उनीहरू चाहिँ विदेश गइरहेका थिए। खाडी मुलुक गएर दुःख गरिरहेका थिए, त्यहाँ गएर थोरै पैसा कमाएर आउँथे, जुन कि उनीहरू गएको ऋण तिर्न मात्र ठिक्क हुन्थ्यो। अनि त्यो विदेश गएर आएका युवाहरूले पनि कुनै राम्रो काम गर्न सकेन। आजभन्दा 7 वर्ष अगाडि हाम्रो गाउँमा चाहिँ धेरै माइक्रो फाइनेन्सहरू आउँथे, जुन लोन चाहिँ उनीहरूले अन्नधुन्न दिन्थ्यो। त्यो लोन लगानी गरिसकेपछि उनीहरूले कुन ठाउँमा लगानी गर्यो, के कामको लगानी गर्यो त्यो हेर्दैन। त्यो किस्ता चाहिँ महिलाहरूले जहाँबाट भए पनि लिएर आउनु पर्थ्यो। त्यसरी लिएर आउँदाखेरि कति महिलाहरूलाई चाहिँ त्यो किस्ता तिर्ने पैसा हुन्थेन, उनीहरूले सही सदुपयोग गरेको हुन्थेन। जुन लोन चाहिँ उहाँहरूले समयमा तिर्न सक्नुहुन्न, त्यसले गर्दाखेरि कतिजना रुँदै हिँड्नुपर्ने, कतिजनाले चाहिँ अकालमा ज्यान फाल्नुपर्ने समस्या देखिसकेपछि अब यसलाई समाधानको लागि हामीहरूले आफैले एउटा सहकारी खोल्नु पर्यो।
कृषकको दुध यहाँ आइसकेपछि त्यो कृषकको दुध कसरी आउँछ भने हाम्रो सानो किसानसँग रिलेटेड कृषकहरूकै मात्र आउँछ दुध। सानो किसानसँग जो आबद्ध भएको सदस्यहरूको दुध यहाँ आउँछ, अनि उहाँहरूको दुध हामीहरूले कलेक्सन गर्छौँ हाम्रो सहकारी मार्फत। अनि हामीहरूले त्यो दुध यहाँ स्थानीय बजारमा खपत गर्छौँ। स्थानीय बजारमा खपत गरेर रहेको चाहिँ हामी यसै गरी खुवा बनाउँछौँ। खुवा बनाएको चाहिँ हामी खुवा बनाउँछौँ, दही बनाउँछौँ, घिउ बनाउँछौँ। अनि खुवा चाहिँ अब अलिकति त्यसको अलिकति बिचको मार्जिन रहन्छ, प्रफिट रहन्छ, त्यो बिउ पसल पनि चढ्यो, हाम्रो जीवन स्तर पनि माथि उठ्यो। अनि हाम्रो जीवन स्तर माथि उठिसकेपछि तपाईँको यो एउटा नगरपालिकाले जुन कृषकले उत्पादन गरेको दुध अन्तबाट ल्याउनु परेन, यो नगरपालिकामा न्यून मूल्याङ्कन तिरेर यहाँ दुध नगरपालिकाले खान पाउने भयो। त्यस कारण नगरपालिकाको पनि जीवन स्तर माथि उठ्छ।
हालसम्म हाम्रो सहकारीमा चाहिँ महिला र पुरुष गरेर 920 घरधुरी सदस्यहरू चाहिँ अहिलेसम्म सदस्य भइसक्नु भएको छ। प्राय हामीहरूको सहकारीमा आबद्ध भएपछि केही न केही काम गर्नुपर्छ।
अनि लगन लाउने, अलिकति खायो, अलिकति लगन लायो, अलिकति खायो, अलिकति लगन लाएर मात्रै गरे हो। यो दुइटा त तरेलो मैले आमा खुसीले हाले हो। यो त चल्ने ठाउँ पाएँ मैले, उहाँले सहयोग गर्नुभयो, यति गर भाउजू भन्नुभयो पार्वतीले। अनि त्यो भएर म अलिकति माथि पुग्नु छ।
बिना काम हामी कुनै पनि लगानी गर्दैनौँ। लगानी गरेपछि हरेक महिनाको एकचोटि हामी उहाँहरूले लगानी गरेको सही छ कि छैन, उहाँहरूले काम गर्नुभएको छ कि छैन भनेर
अनि त्यसमा त्यो तिर्न सक्ने हाम्रो कुनै आम्दानीको स्रोत हुन्थेन हैन। अनि त्यो नहुँदाखेरि अब हामीले समयमा उसको साउँ र ब्याज तिर्न नसक्दाखेरि त हाम्रो जग्गै दिनुपर्ने अवस्था हैन। अनि त्यो भएको हुनाले चाहिँ अनि अब सासू ससुराको पाला चाहिँ थोरै पैसा चाहिने बेला नि साउ कहाँ गएर पैसा मागेर धेरै जग्गा जमिनहरू सिद्धाउनु भएको के हाम्रो अब जात जातिमा चाहिँ हामीलाई चाहिँ अब दलित जातिमा नै हेर्छ हैन। हामी निजार हो हैन। पहिलाको हेरिकन दलित धेरै नै परिवर्तन आइसकेको छ हाम्रो अब सासू ससुराको पाला भन्दा त हैन। अनि अब यो मान्छेहरूको घरमा चाहिँ अब कस्तो व्यवहार हुन्छ त्यो पनि परिवर्तन भएको छ। तर यो सहकारीमा चाहिँ हामीलाई त्यस्तो पक्षपात हैन त्यस्तो चाहिँ छैन। हामीलाई जे होस् तपाईहरु पनि आउनुपर्छ, अगाडि बढ्नुपर्छ, तपाईहरुको त्यो ठाउँबाट नि बस्नुपर्छ भनेर बोर्डमा राख्नु भयो हैन। समितिबाट त्यस्तो पक्षपात चाहिँ छैन। हुन्छ विभिन्न ट्रेनिङहरू हुन्छ हैन। अनि ठुल्ठुलो सरहरूलाई नि चिनिन्छ, परिचय हुन्छ, चिनजानको पनि मौका हुन्छ हैन। जे होस् अब पहिलाको भन्दा त हैन अब यो मान्छे पनि बोर्डमा छ भन्दाखेरि जे होस् अलिकति उमै राखेर छ भन्ने अब हेर्ने दृष्टिकोण त अलिकति फरकै परिहाल्छ हैन।
उनीहरूले विश्वास गरेको छ र हाम्रो भविष्यप्रति चाहिँ उसले चाहिँ अगाडि है विचार गरेर है भनेर नै नाम राखेको हो। भविष्य निर्माण भनेर राख्नुको कारण नै किनभने भविष्यमा के छ त कस्तो छ त्यो कुरा त अहिलेदेखि वर्तमानदेखि बनाउने हो। आज म एउटा जुन स्थानमा छु, आज त्यो स्थानमा मलाई सहकारीले मलाई ल्याएको छ भने किनभने यो मेरो मेहनत र हामी साथीभाइहरूको सबैको एउटा सहयोग र सहकारीले त्यो पूर्ण रूपमा म जस्तै मैले र हामीले कुनै पनि एउटा ग्रुपमा बसेपछि एउटा कुनै पनि हामी मासमा बसिसकेपछि एउटा नयाँ सोच त बनाउँछ। यो नयाँ सोच बनाउनको लागि हामीहरू सबै मिलेर आपसमा सल्लाह गरेर एउटा अब सोसाइटी सबै आपसमा हामी सबै हैन हाम्रो सोच के छ पहिला यो रासायनिक मल यो माटोमा कसरी पर्न नदिने। रासायनिक मललाई हामीले जमिनबाट नदिने बित्तिकै त्यो पानीमा पुग्न पाउँदैन र पानीमा नपुग्ने बित्तिकै हामीहरूले खाने पनि हुँदैनौँ, अरू जनावरले पनि खाँदैन।
एकजना हाम्रो सदस्य हुनुहुन्छ लक्ष्मी ढुङ्गाना, उहाँलाई चाहिँ एकदमै नयाँ काम गर्ने इच्छा थियो। उहाँले चाहिँ केही नयाँ काम गरौँ जसले चाहिँ आम्दानी पनि होस् र हामी महिलाहरू पनि अगाडि बढ्न सकियोस् भन्ने थियो। पहिला चाहिँ उहाँले म पनि इलेक्ट्रिसियनको तालिम लिन्छु भन्नुभयो ल लिनुहोस् भनेर भने। अनि त्यसपछि उहाँको घरबाट चाहिँ पहिला नजाऊ इलेक्ट्रिसियन भनेको त यो ठाउँमा सबै केटाहरूले मात्रै गरिरहेको छ, केटीहरू कसैले गरेको छैन भन्नुभयो उहाँको फ्यामिलीबाट। उहाँले चाहिँ यो क्षेत्रको पहिलो महिलाको रूपमा चाहिँ अहिले हाउस वायरिङ काम गरिरहनु भएको छ।
म एकदम पहिला त एकदम पिछडिएको कस्तो भने एउटा पिन्जडामा परेको सुगा जस्तै थिएँ म त्यो सहकारीमा आबद्ध हुनुभन्दा पहिला। अहिले चाहिँ के फिल भइरहेछ भनेदेखि अब यो भैँसी पालन गरेर अनि अब इलेक्ट्रिसियन बनेर हैन अनि हामीले यही आएर यही भैँसी पालेर नै हामीले यहाँ घडेरी एउटा किनिरहेछौँ। त्यसैमा अब यसलाई उन्नति गर्दै गर्दै लगेर त्यो सहकारीको लोन तिरेर हैन अनि जब पनि नछोड्ने भैँसी पालन नछोड्ने म्यानेज गर्दै लगेर अनि अब भविष्यलाई सफल बनाउला भनेर सोचिरहेको छु। त्यसपछि दिदीले नि धेरै हेल्प गर्नुभयो, सहकारीले नि धेरै हेल्प गर्यो। मेरो लागि त जन्मदाता नै भन्दा पनि हुन्छ लगभग हैन।
हामीहरू सबैजनाले सहयोग गर्छौँ, त्यसमा पनि अलि धेरै चाहिँ म पनि महिला हो अनि अरूहरू महिलाको पनि अलि धेरै कुरा बुझ्छु अनि कहिले बेला त त्यही कुरा बुझ्दा बुझ्दै नै अलि धेरै नजिकिँदो रहेछ जसले गर्दाखेरि अलिकति सबैले दिदी दिदी भन्नुहुन्छ
मेरो चाहिँ अब सहकारीमा आउनुभन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ धेरै उ थियो आर्थिक स्थिति पनि कमजोर थियो अब आफैले उत्पादन गर्न सक्दा पनि हामी पहिलादेखि नै तरकारी पेसै हो भने चाहिँ अनि त्यो व्यापारीहरूले चाहिँ लगानी गर्थ्यो हामीलाई थोरै बिउ बिजनहरू थोरै लगानी गर्थ्यो उनीहरूकै भाउमा चाहिँ उनीहरूले लान्थे कि त्यो भएपछि अनि सहकारीमा आएपछि चाहिँ आफूले जता बढी पाउँछ त्यता पनि बेच्न पाइयो जहाँ मन लाग्छ त्यहाँ बेच्न पनि पाइयो अब किसानलाई त 2 पैसा अलि जहाँ बढी हुन्छ त्यहीँ गर्ने हो नि त अनि त्यही भएर धेरै नै परिवर्तन आएको छ
अनि हामीहरूले चाहिँ कसरी उहाँहरूलाई सपोर्ट गरिरहेछौँ भने उहाँहरूले उत्पादन गरेको तरकारीहरूको चाहिँ हामीहरूले हाम्रो सहकारीको फेसबुकबाट अनि त्यसपछि हामी सहकारीबाट कुनै पनि ठाउँमा गयो भने हामीहरूले माउथ टु माउथ अनि त्यसपछि हामीले फेसबुक मार्फत एक त प्रचार गरिरहेका छौँ अनि त्यो प्रचारको साथसाथै नै हामीहरूले हाम्रो केन्द्रीय सङ्घले खोलेको 2वटा पसलमा पनि हामीले लगिरहेका छौँ
We work on the cooperative management, agriculture and value chain marketing. We do have 995 cooperative affiliated with our organization and there is small farmer bank also and majority of the share owned by small farmer agriculture cooperatives. Banks provide financial service and we do provide non-financial service for the same target beneficiaries. And we have 82% of women member within our networks. And there are 40% youth within our cooperatives, and most of them, they are already started agriculture entrepreneurs.
घरबाट सपोर्ट मिलेपछि मैले सोचेँ कि गाउँमा गएर पनि महिला पुरुष सबैजनाको पिरमर्का बुझेर उहाँहरूलाई चाहिँ केही माथि उकास्ने अनि कसरी हुन्छ उहाँहरूको आय स्तर माथि उकास्ने भन्ने लाग्यो जसमा चाहिँ मलाई पहिला सुरुमा चाहिँ केन्द्रीय सङ्घ र बैंकबाट चाहिँ एकदम सपोर्ट मिल्यो मलाई चाहिँ यो साना किसानमा लागेपछि चाहिँ कस्तो भयो भने एउटा मेरो सानैदेखिको इच्छा भनेको चाहिँ सोशल वर्क गर्ने थियो जब म यो फिल्डमा लागि परेपछि चाहिँ मलाई कस्तो लाग्यो भने आफ्नो काम भनेको चाहिँ त्यो काम चाहिँ एउटा त्यो कामलाई चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ आफ्नो चाहिँ शक्ति बनाउनु पर्छ भन्ने लाग्यो अनि यहाँका चाहिँ सबैजना सदस्यहरूमा चाहिँ के छ भने यो सहकारी बेनिफिट भन्दा पनि बढी चाहिँ सहयोगको भावनाले काम गरेको छ अहिलेको यो ठाउँको लागि अनि हाम्रो लागि यो संस्थाको लागि नै यो सहकारीले अहिले आत्मा बनेको छ
Thank you. Thank you for this. Once more, I will repeat myself, very inspiring documentary. If I'm allowed just to give a short comment, because I have watched it, as you can imagine, many, many times, so I can really reflect on that, is the fact that what the lady actually mentioned at the end, that people are getting together because of the collective action and not because of the benefits of the cooperatives. But I would like also to open the floor to all of you. If there is somebody that has like a reflection around the documentary, or you would like to address a specific question to the filmmakers. Anybody from the floor? Yes, please, go ahead. Can you switch on your micro, please? Thank you.
Vargas. I'm from Green Worker Cooperatives based in the South Bronx. It's a nonprofit organization. And I was very curious. I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking about Caribbean nations, about what was the first part, like what was the first step of building the cooperative? Was it a banking cooperative? What was the first element of it before it grew? Because I wasn't really sure about how it first initiated and then it became everything else.
Thanks. Sarah?
You mean this cooperative? This cooperative is a saving and credit cooperative. They started, Ms. Parvati explained a bit the context. So tough context, because to get a loan, people had to just ask. The only opportunity was to ask the landowners. And that moment would mean for them actually being obliged to work on their land. Also would mean child labor, because child had to work on that land. Another option to get loans for them would be microfinance institution that wouldn't really take care of how members would use that loan. And that then was a vicious circle. After that, basically, on that context, they started really as a saving and credit. So basically putting their share and having the possibility to get a loan without collateral. So that and that is how the cooperatives still work. The fact that is they really, for them, it's very important to call themselves as agricultural saving and credit, is because it's in a rural area. And the cooperative really take care that each member invests the loan in an agricultural activity, business activity, in a way that then they have income and they can virtuous circle to repaying the loan. This model actually is not new for Nepal, and it started around the 80s, and that's why basically they mentioned then NSCCFL is the apex organization. So basically there are several of this type of organization, and there is also, that's why the small bank. The bank is another institution where all these saving and credit cooperative own a share, and that's basically the bank that allow the financial services. Welcome. Hope I reply your answer, your question.
Please, the lady.
Yep. Does that work? Thank you. My name is Rebecca Lurie. I work with the City University of New York at the School of Labor and Urban Studies, where we have a project called the Community and Worker Ownership Project, seeking to help teach and promote cooperatives as part of a solution to so much inequity and injustice. And I'm curious, in your travels, and particularly in this community, when people refer to training and education as an important part of what brought them up and gave them power, if you can identify some of those things. And part of this is, I see that this is such a fundamental shift for change. Education around the globe, people see that this matters. So what are we educating for? What are some of the principles that we need to educate that can promote cooperativism in any space? Thank you.
One of the activities that we do with them before start filming is, let's say, is a participatory game around the cooperative principles, and we ask them to identify what they think they're performing best and what they really want more. And I can tell you that every cooperative always say the cooperative around education as one of the most important in their life, just to confirm what you were saying. Actually, what actually we noticed is that the most important is to receive training for them, to have that kind of training that really is responding to that need, the particular need in that moment. That was kind of a common aspect in all the cooperative where we visited. And not only on technical stuff, on our skills, but also on governance, the way that they should manage the cooperative, the way they can participate and they can actively be members. And I would say that that is a key part of the story. Another element that I think for us was really a learning experience. We always say in the cooperative environment, right, and people that work do research, or that is important that the cooperative is follow a bottom-up approach, right, that really respond to an initiative of members. In Rwanda, we found actually that even when in complex, right, like Rwanda after the genocide, there was not that kind of social capital to set up cooperative. Actually, they started in an opposite way. It was a kind of external initiative. It was not a proper bottom-up approach. Although, even in that situation, training their words was fundamental to create the sense of a common identity, to understand what they would really wanted out of that cooperative. And today they are one of the best performing cooperatives I've ever seen in the trip and also so it's very interesting, the big role that education would play. But I would say that beyond the hard skills, soft skills and governance is key.
Anybody else? Okay. So we close this part here, and I will pass to Mr. Álvaro Iniesta Pérez. I hope so. Deputy Director General of the international movement ATD Fourth World. Mr. Álvaro Iniesta Pérez is a sound technician by training and has made many social commitments, supporting Moroccan families, fair trade projects, and mobilizations against developing countries' debts that have brought him closer to ATD Fourth World. Mr. Pérez, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you to the organizers of the event, and thanks for this great film. I apologize because my English is maybe not so good, but I'm going to try. Agenda 2030 promises to leave no one behind and to reach first the people who are farthest behind. How can we achieve this? I'm going to talk about the economic projects of ATD Fourth World. Maman Louise, a member of our movement in the Democratic Republic of Congo, carries 40 to 70 kilo manioc bales on her back for some kilometers, often to hills where vehicles cannot go. This is a job that is generally despised and is done mainly by women. Maman Louise says, "When I started my job as a loader, I was ashamed. When we started to organize ourselves as a group of supportive families, I learned that with the work we do, we fight poverty. Sometimes my neighbor has nothing to eat. I can't give him anything because I barely have a note for myself. So I suggested he take on half my load and we share the money we earn." Maman Louise tells us that this showed her she could make a difference in someone's life. Many other people who resist the daily onslaught of poverty and exclusion also inspire us to create income-generating activities linked to a project that builds community, strengthens solidarity networks, and respects people on the land. In our organization, these pilot projects are grouped under the name Working and Learning Together. In Spanish, Trabajar y Aprender Juntos, TAG. We are currently carrying out 3 of these projects. One near Paris, where workers recover and refurbish computers and maintain, clean, and renovate houses. Another in Antananarivo, Madagascar, where workers practice traditional crafts and sell the items they create. Finally, in Guatemala City, where workers create and sell handicrafts made with recycled material, mainly paper. In these projects, we give priority to people who live in extreme poverty, those who have been exploited by the labor market, who have survived through the informal economy, or who have struggled not to be considered useless. For these projects to succeed, we have to establish trust that allows potential participants to accept the risk of joining the project. We also need to be constantly considerate of the person beyond their capacity of production. The economic results of the TAG projects are still precarious, but results at the human level are enormous. Lila Marin is an artisan at TAG Guatemala. She explains, "At TAG, I have learned everything, especially to value myself as a person and as a woman, and to try harder at what I do. I have learned that not being educated does not mean that we are worthless as people. In other places, they didn't value my work. Here, we encourage and teach one another, and we do things together. I have learned solidarity. It's something I didn't do before, but now it feels good." It's not true that Lila didn't support other people before. She left school as a child to take care of her younger siblings so they could go to school, which also allowed her mother to sell goods outside the home. Lila later worked in a sweatshop where she endured constant mistreatment. Her experience helped us realize what we wanted to avoid in TAG and to discern what we wanted to be: a collective economic project in which each person's contribution was valued as essential to the whole. Here, collaboration, respect, and mutual support will be fostered, and a consensus will be built around the priority of not abandoning anyone. The experience of poverty often isolates people, locking them into dynamics that prompt them to act alone and not to trust others. In TAG Guatemala, we reverse this trend and show that together we are more likely to succeed. We rely on artisans like Maritza Orozco, who motivates and sustains the collective dimension of the project. She says, "After 10 years, we have managed to keep going, to value ourselves as companions in the group, and to earn money to support our families. We have achieved something very simple and significant: to grow as people and as a group, and to love one another." In distributing profits from the sale of the handicrafts, we further our commitment not to leave anyone behind. 80% of revenue goes to the craftswoman who made the item. 10% is reinvested in the project. 10% is distributed equally among all the craftswomen, so even if someone wasn't able to make handicrafts or sell it, she still earns something through revenue from the others. These TAG initiatives involve small groups of people, but they can inspire projects with a greater impact. For example, 0 long-term unemployment areas. Launched in 2017 and initiated by ATD4World, this experimental project in France has led to the creation of 11 companies and 800 jobs adapted to the skill of people who have been deprived of employment for at least 1 year. 0 unemployment areas is based on 3 principles. No person is unemployable. All people have practical skills and abilities. There is no question of lack of work, since many of society's needs are not met. There is no question of lack of money, since long-term unemployment incurs costs that the community assumes. The jobs paying minimum wage are financed by relocating different state unemployment benefits and by using the employees' work benefits. To carry out this type of project on a large scale, a consensus will have to be reached on the priority of involving people with the greatest need. The predominant economic dynamic today forces the people in the deepest poverty into uselessness or exploitation through a system that extracts wealth, privatizes common goods, destroys nature, and erodes human relations. Our constant concern is to make room for the economic contribution of people who live in poverty. If we do not learn from the intelligence of Maman Luis, Doña Maritza, Lila, and others about creating jobs that nurture life, there will be no guarantee of a sustainable future for all. Here are some lessons we learned over the years. People living in extreme poverty have very different skills. We need to tailor opportunities to the needs of each participant. One person may need 2 months to learn a trade. Another person may need 2 years. Trust is crucial. Participants need to learn to trust one another and trust the values of the project. They need to learn to cooperative to share the profits, especially when those are scarce, and the risks. They need to accept that others may need more time. A key component of our projects is the inclusion of workers with more formal training who agree to share the aim of leaving no one behind and to encourage those who have more difficulties to be part of the project at every stage. The cooperative generated income, certainly, but some important gains also arose from the project's capacity to empower participants to become human rights activists, create a sense of community, and build solidarity network to support those who are farthest behind. In Bukavu, the RC Maman Louise seeks to develop a similar cooperative as TAG. She asks, "We are making a great effort. We are struggling a lot to make poverty disappear. Will our children collect the benefits of our struggle, or will they die in the same poverty as us?" Maman Louise's dream for her children, shared by so many mothers and fathers around the world, depends on the support that they receive. Are we willing to rethink our practice, our ideals, and our model of economic development so that no one is left in poverty? I want to believe so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Perez. Great lessons to be learned from the field. And actually, I will stick to what you mentioned regarding like the sense of community and regarding like thinking a bit beyond like the economic benefits. It's about trust and respect of leaving no one behind, actually. Also, another point I would like to make is that your case is touched a lot the sector of the informal sector and how people actually gain dignity through the formalization of informal economy. And with that comment, I will pass to our next speaker, who is Mrs. Ana Martinez de Luco. She is a co-founder of Sure We Can, which is actually a cooperative. It's a recycling center, a community space, and a sustainable hub. We are looking forward to hear more. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Thanks so much for this invitation. And thank you for you, the organizers, to celebrate this special day of cooperatives. Yes, I think much has been said about the goodness of developing cooperatives at all levels, and which I believe deeply. And I will just add my own experience, which is maybe the best thing I can do. I was born maybe 10 miles away of Mondragon. Some of you know, it's a well-known nest for cooperatives. And in a village which we never talk about cooperative, but everything looking from this perspective was in a cooperative way, in the sense that it was a rural area and everything was decided by leaders of the village that they join once a month or at times more to decide, taking turns for the harvest, for the preparing the land, and so you grew in an atmosphere that you thought that is the way of running the world, and in that atmosphere, we as children grew with the impression that our elders knew how to make their living, and there will be always enough food. Nothing special, no money for extra lux things, but yes, enough for our needs. And there was no rich and poor. There were more or less the same level, and everybody owns their land and some animals. So that, I think it's basic in my own experience to say that agricultural society had a lot of elements of what today we call cooperative. And in that sense, when I went to the Philippines, I was in my 20s, and I was assigned to an area in Metro Manila in which people had come from their provinces, living in the squatters, in the slums around the city, or in the remote areas of Metro Manila, and they have nothing, no work, no food, no land, nothing. So everything has to be done. And I thought a cooperative with the women who needed to bring some rice to the table was the most important thing. So we started to develop, and we started in 89, and by 91, it was already registered as multi-purpose cooperative. It was a factory of dolls making, a credit union, and grocery store. So it was consumers, credit, and workers cooperative. It sounds very big, but it was just in a small group, but 30 plus women, but they were able to handle it. And I had a great pleasure this January to go back there and to see that the cooperative is alive. And it's the only thing in that small center in the skirts of Metro Manila. So that gave me a lot of enthusiasm again for cooperatives. Now, Sure We Can. We started Sure We Can with a group of people mostly living on the street, picking up cans on the street here in Manhattan. And we wanted, and I wanted, that it is from the canners, for the canners, and managed by the canners. But it was not so easy here in the middle of the city. So first thing, we needed to register. So I will just share an anecdote. When we went, a man from Wall Street came to help us and brought us to his lawyer because we have no means to do anything for the registration. And of course, he paid for it. But the lawyer was so helpful, and he said, okay, you get the 5, I told maybe at least 5 members for the board. So you look for the board members and for the name, and I will do the rest, the paperwork. And so the man from Wall Street says, you will be a member of the board. I said, no, because I had been make a great effort to become a part of the community of homeless people on the street. Now, if I become in a board, I take distance, it does not forfeit my purpose. So he asked the lawyer, should homeless people be part of the board? could be part of the board, and the lawyer, with all his best intention to help, I believe, he said, no, homeless people cannot be, because you need to put pillars of the society in order to get funds and help, in order to establish the organization. And we were Joe, who was the man who was paying the lawyer, Eugene, who was homeless, I would say almost forever, and me for 2 or 3 years. And so we started to look for the board members, knowing that this was the best decision. But we had 3 already. And finally, one day I faced Eugene, and I said, a canner for 20 plus years, and as I said, a homeless since she was a child. I said, do you like to be a board member? He said, if they will invite me, yes. I said, we are the ones in charge of looking for the board members. So we have 3, you are the number 4, I am the number 5, and this is it. Because how the organization of canners will be run without canners. So in that sense, from the beginning, we were able at least to have that kind of participation, and it was really great. But it was just an anecdote that I always want to share about having organizations with pillars of the society, but not with the persons involved into it. And that was it. So since then, we have worked, especially 2012 was the International Year of Cooperatives, I think. So I got crazy that we had to become officially a cooperative, although we were working always as all together. And I will say that I have a great disappointment. And I will say the difficulties in order for us to be aware of those difficulties, which are real. We work with maybe 90% of immigrant population. Among them, Hispanic, the majority, the next Chinese, some from the islands, the Caribbean islands, and the rest Afro-American people. So that I had experience in the Philippines, that even though you did not have the skills, most of them did not even finish elementary, so you have other difficulties in matters of training and how to handle. But here you have a population that is just not on the ground. It's like floating. No language, no culture, fears, and so insecure. And so my pushing towards a cooperative brought, in a certain moment, a Chinese great old man facing me, who had been very supportive, and we needed translation every time because we could not communicate. But finally, he faced me with somebody to translate. He said, Anna, stop changing things. We have such a hard time to distinguish this bottle from this bottle, which goes together, which has the 5 cents, and now you want us more changes? We can't cope. We just can't cope. And it gave me a great reality test. I mean, you are talking with people that they feel so insecure in this society because they were not from here. They came as adults. They could not learn the language. They could not know the system. They could not know the laws. And now you want them to be owners, to handle the whole responsibility. They were like that. And that was a good help for me. So I lay down, never to forget. So this past 2 years, again, I brought back. And there are already members who are younger. Sorry for my phone. They are in their 40s, 50s, who had lived here longer. And also their children had been born here. And they have more interest to integrate things here and to learn how to do. So I think from now to next year, we will be able really to form a cooperative, finally, but it has taken so long because it's a totally different population. And I think we move in many of the biggest cities in the world right now with that type of population. So even ideally, cooperatives is a much, much better way to handle things. It's so difficult to implement things like in Nepal, because at least they are attached to their land, to their customs, so there is some kind of strength that they have to face the new challenges as cooperative. But definitely, I believe cooperative is an alternative, and all of you have said, to this corporate world who had made greater number of the world population almost slaves. I mean, you have to work because you have to eat and you have to pay your rent, but it's more than half of your life that you have to live like that. And work, we know, indecent work is not like that, as some of you have said, is to develop our full selves, to share our full creativity, to work together with others. It's not enslaved work that I badly need to do no matter what in order to survive. So I'm so happy that all of us are moved towards that system of cooperatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anna, for the reality check, first of all, but also looking at the challenges that, I mean, of course, the cooperative cannot be the solution for everything. It's just that it can bring, indeed, like people together much more easily than any other economic model, but also like pull the dynamics of people together, given the non-discriminatory, let's say, perspective that runs through, let's say, its veins, if I can call it like that. Thank you very much to all the speakers, and I will pass to the new chair of our meeting from the ILO. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My name is Matthew Koniak. I'm sitting here on behalf of Mr. Pinheiro, who could not make it, unfortunately. He's the director of the ILO in New York. I work at the International Labour Organization office here in New York. And in this segment, we are going to try to see how we can perhaps together do more and also do better, with the aim to leave no one behind, as has been mentioned so many times already in the course of this very excellent discussion since this morning. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about leaving no one behind. And it's something that is deeply rooted in the intrinsic values of decent work, as well as in those of cooperativism. The theme of this year's International Day of Cooperatives, Cooperatives for Decent Work, is therefore very highly relevant. Because on the one hand, decent work is about people living their working lives in conditions of freedom, equality, security, dignity. And on the other hand, cooperativism is about promoting democratic values with the idea that everyone's voice matters. And so decent work is achieved through the equal participation of employers, workers, governments, that together set labor standards and labor policies. And this year, as many of you will know, the ILO is turning 100 years old, and we can look back and we can be, I would say, comforted by the fact that much of what seems to be obviously fundamental today was much less so 100 years ago. For example, limiting working hours, promoting occupational safety and health, ending child labor or forced labor, extending opportunities for the most vulnerable, including women, migrant workers, indigenous people, young people, people with disabilities. These are just a few examples of what it has meant for the ILO to promote decent work, and there's of course still so much more that needs to be done. But at the heart of this work are the values that are closely aligned with the cooperative movement. And it is perhaps no surprise that the first Director General of the ILO, Mr. Albert Thomas, came from the cooperative movement himself, and that as early as 1920, 1 year after the creation of the ILO, it had established a cooperative unit, which is still very active today. And in fact, for the small anecdote, I myself came from the cooperative background when I joined the ILO in 2005 after the devastating aftermath of the Indian Ocean tsunami in Banda Aceh. And I recall with pride, also with a great deal of humility, how we worked together with local farmers, with fishers, with Islamic finance, cooperatives, to try and rebuild better after the tragedy that they have all gone through. Cooperatives, it's very clear, play a very essential role for the producers, for the workers in the rural and the informal economies, and it's been very well explained in this movie and in the discussions that we have had, particularly through developing businesses, through collective action, providing essential goods and services, and representing their voices and interests. The cooperatives are also not exclusively rural, and in this digital age, we can think of cooperatives supported by gig economy workers who work on digital platforms to improve the conditions at work for their members, developing online applications to face the competition from taxi companies or hotels or homestays that in many cases tend to withhold the rights and the benefits from their members. And in all, there are, I think it was mentioned, about 1 billion cooperative members in the world, and they represent about 279 million people. So that's about 10% of the world population of employed people, of the world's employed population. And the turnover of all these cooperatives, or for the top 300 of them, is $2.1 trillion. So that is quite huge, or highly significant. Now, to support them, the ILO recommendation number 193 on the promotion of cooperatives was adopted in 2002 and also provides a very solid basis for national policies on cooperatives. Cooperatives take into account social and environmental goals, and much of the work that is done to address climate change at the local level, be it, for example, installing biogas facilities or engaging in waste management programs, a lot of that is done with the direct support of cooperatives, which by themselves contribute directly to climate adaptation and mitigation efforts. And so while many cooperatives are involved in the informal economy, the truth is that cooperatives have also been recognized as a tool in the pathway towards formalizing the informal economy. So for example, like ILO recommendation 204, I think was referred to a little bit earlier, on the transition from the informal to the formal economy, is closely related to cooperatives. And so the final report of the Global Commission on the Future of Work, which was published in January of this year, of this centenary year, I should say, refers also directly to cooperatives. Now, and I will finish with this, closely linked is the fast-growing concept of the solidarity economy. And that is the idea of producing goods, services, knowledge, while pursuing both economic and social aims and fostering solidarity. That is something that is growing very rapidly, with the idea that the bottom line of any business may not just be to maximize profit, as it was explained in all of the business courses until very recently. And in fact, the ILO, we have observed really a surge in the requests from our constituents, from governments, workers, employers who want to learn more and do more on the solidarity economy and toward the development of the social and solidarity economy, with examples that range from South Africa to Korea and to several European countries where, in fact, it greatly originated. With these few words, I will give the floor now to Ms. Carla Mukavi, who is the director of the FAO New York office. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, our moderator, and thank you also for your intervention. Let me start by really thanking you and DESA for organizing this important event that aims to commemorate the International Day of Cooperatives. I also want to recognize His Excellency the Ambassador and, of course, all the participants here. Let me just say that how enriching, I came a little bit late, but what I've heard, it was really so enriching, the successful stories that were shared. And I would really say that we really have to build on them, and the challenge is really to scale up and expand, because by doing that we will really leave no one behind. Indeed, what we have heard this morning confirms that cooperatives have a critical role to play in helping to better the lives of those who are left behind, and particularly in rural setting, where we still have the majority of the population that are really facing poverty, and yet they depend on agriculture to earn their living. Various studies have really confirmed that in comparison with the employment in other sectors, cooperative jobs tend to be more sustainable over time. And they also have a small gap. There is a small gap between the lowest and the highest earners. And they are also more evenly distributed between rural and urban areas. So this is really something that I wanted to say and share. Of course, speaking on behalf of FAO, I would like to say that we recognize the strong value that cooperatives bring and works to promote the growth of agriculture cooperatives in a number of ways. For instance, by supporting the establishment of an enabling environment, which include, of course, working very closely with the government to develop appropriate regulatory and legal frameworks. We know that this is a challenge. We need legal frameworks in order really to create the environment where cooperatives can really boom and work and expand, as I mentioned. Also, enhancing the effective participation of rural farmers and small-scale producers in policy dialogue. Actually, I was really very keen to listen what you just shared. Policy dialogue processes to advocate for their members' needs, making their voice heard at the national, at the regional, and also at the global level. And also by facilitating the development of producers' capacity, including their technical and managerial, organizational, and marketing skills. Actually, this is why it's really important to really celebrate the year, because it really allows us to keep on speaking about this, because we have gone a long way, but we still have a lot to do. Let me also say that, of course, agricultural cooperatives are found all over the world, and in fact, the statistics are really saying that 33% of the 300 world largest cooperatives are in the agriculture sector, and they operate along the entire agriculture chain. We could also confirm that, but what we have heard today, from cultivation to processing to marketing, and of course, members. It allows the members to participate in production, profit sharing, cost saving. Of course, I'm not saying anything new, but of course, let me say that since the majority of the world's farmers are less also than 2 acres in size, agriculture cooperatives help to improve the productivity of smallholder farmers, and in turn reduce poverty by facilitating access to markets, credit, technology, and insurance. This again really confirms the importance of cooperatives in their role of empowering their members economically and socially, particularly women, whom we know that they really face additional disadvantages, and by also creating sustainable rural employment through business models that are resilient to economic and environmental shocks. As I really said, there is a lot that we have been doing, the successful stories we all had, but there is also much that should be done. So let me just conclude here saying that this is really an occasion by this celebration to renew our commitments, to continue advocating for cooperatives, and really to pledge our support, as we all know that their contribution is really so vital for the well-being and the livelihoods of the people that we are here to serve. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mukavi, for stressing the important role of cooperatives in rural areas, what they mean to rural farmers, the need also for a legal framework. It's very important that you mentioned this, and of course also the role of women. So thank you so much for these very important words. And I will now turn to Ms. Aoulea Kouassi from the World Farmers Organization of Côte d'Ivoire. Please.
OK, thank you very much. Bon. Excusez-moi, je parle français, donc ma collègue de Madame Julia va traduire ce que je vais dire. Bonjour à tous, je suis Aoulea Kouassi, je suis jeune agricultrice de l'Organisation mondiale des agriculteurs basée en Côte d'Ivoire. Je veux vous partager aujourd'hui notre expérience de coopérative.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aoulea Kouassi. I'm a young farmer from Côte d'Ivoire, member of the World Farmers Organization. I would like today to share my experience with you with our cooperative.
Je suis membre d'une coopérative de 300 femmes. Aujourd'hui, avec cette coopérative, les femmes sont devenues assez autonomes. Elles se prennent en charge entièrement.
I am a member of a cooperative of 300 women farmers. Through this cooperative, these women have become financially independent and they are responsible for themselves.
Et elles prennent aussi en charge leur famille. Nous produisons du cacao, du riz, du manioc et du maïs.
They're responsible also for the well-being of their families. Through our cooperative, we produce rice, cocoa, maize and cassava.
Toutes ces productions-là pour entrer dans le projet de l'objectif 5 et 8 et aussi pour la décennie de l'agriculture familiale.
So we have an impact on SDG 8, 5, and also in the framework of the Decade on Family Farmers.
Nous avons aussi mis en place des forêts communautaires pour préserver la biodiversité, pour lutter contre le changement climatique et la protection de l'environnement.
Through our cooperative, we also created community forests, meaning that each village has 5 hectares of forests, where farmers work together to preserve biodiversity, and thus we have a positive impact on climate.
Avec toutes ces expériences pratiques, toutes ces expériences de bonnes pratiques, les agriculteurs dans les coopératives agricoles aujourd'hui jouent un rôle clé pour le développement durable.
With these experiences and best practices, every day farmers have Yes, farmers play a key role in achieving sustainable development.
Voilà. Enfin, je peux aussi dire qu'avec l'adhésion à l'OMA est un rôle clé pour le développement durable. Et l'OMA est heureuse de continuer de travailler avec le COPAC pour soutenir les coopératives agricoles.
So the World Farmers Organization is keen to continue working with the COPAC to strengthen a lot of agricultural cooperatives and farmers within agricultural cooperatives for the achievement of sustainable development.
Bon, je vous remercie.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Kouassi, pour partager cette expérience directe du terrain en Côte d'Ivoire. Thank you so much for sharing this experience from Ivory Coast and really for, sharing the experience of the cooperative. 300 women, very impressive, and we are very pleased every time we hear very concrete experience like this from the field. So thank you again. And now we have one more speaker, who is Ms. Elisabeth Philippe from the United Nations Federal Credit Union. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. Also known as UNFCU.
UNFCU.
Yes.
Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends, special thanks as well to DESA for organizing today's event. Happy International Day of Cooperatives. As some of you may know, the United Nations Federal Credit Union, UNFCU, has been around for many years. In fact, we were founded in 1947 by UN staff members, 13 UN staff members right here. So it's interesting, we've gone around the world, and now we're concluding our celebration right here at the UN. We've heard, and I think the film was remarkable, talking about the fact that cooperatives represent rebirth, hope, and the soul of us. And those are really very powerful words, and I think we can all really embrace them. And we at UNFCU remember them each and every day, because we have grown right along with the UN community in terms of our starting back in 1947, as I mentioned, with volunteers to today over 600 staff, from having 54 members back in the early 50s and growing to over 130,000 today. We've grown from about $26,000 to over $5 billion today, and that's based on our commitment to service. And our purpose is really quite simple. It is to provide financial peace of mind to the UN community globally, so that the UN staff members, agencies, funds and programs can focus on doing their work, which they do so well, which is to do good. UNFCU has also expanded in the area of sustainability, and we've really embraced the Sustainable Development Goals. We have a global sustainability program, which today just launched our sustainability report. We accomplished 7 out of the 8 goals that were set for 2020. Chief among these is remaining carbon neutral, and we were among the first credit unions to do so. We've received a lot of support and help from the UN Greening the Blue, which many of you may know is a network of agencies, funds, and programs committed to a sustainable UN. So we've grown from the personal economic growth, SDG number 8, to climate action through the sustainable report that we've developed, and also we'll be launching in the fall our 2nd annual Credit Union Sustainability Summit, and working closely with the United Nations as well. This is really caught on tremendously. We have a network of credit unions who are interested in moving the needle, to working with vendors and suppliers, asking them about their sustainability practices. So we've committed ourselves to having a choir of voices to make a difference in that space. We also have launched an impact share certificate, which funds socially responsible causes like affordable housing and energy renewal. And that's really in alignment with the SDGs and our members' aims. So from providing the access to loans, which we did back in 1947, we've continued to grow on that front. And then also in terms of SDG number 1, no poverty, which we've heard a lot about today, we have established the UNFCU Foundation, which is dedicated to sustaining a path out of poverty for women and youth in marginalized communities globally. And at the end of June, we received over 100 applications for our next cycle of grants. So we're very excited to be supporting projects that are in Uganda, Nigeria. Several of them are cooperatives as well, small businesses. The education, livelihoods training, and healthcare is what the foundation supports, and we work with partners, SDG number 17, to secure that end, working closely with UN organizations as well to alleviate poverty and provide women and youth, as I mentioned, with empowerment. So it really has been a very exciting experience, again, partnering with so many different UN groups, getting the feedback from our membership, which helps us create new products and services that really resonate the most with them. And again, just going back to, as I mentioned, that providing the peace of mind, which we strive to do every single day to provide everyone here with the ability to really go out and, as I mentioned, do the good that you do. So again, happy International Day of Cooperatives. Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ms. Philippe. Very interesting and really great to know all that UNFCU does beyond, savings and loans, but the involvement and the direct impact that UNFCU has to really toward the implementation and the contribution of so many of the goals of the SDGs. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We have still a few minutes for comments or questions to any of the panelists or regarding the movie or any contribution that anyone would like to make. The floor is open in this interactive segment of the discussion. Or are we going to conclude?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Oh, there was, please.
Yes, Rebecca Lurie again with the School of Labor and Urban Studies here at the City University of New York. Fascinated to think and actually teach and promote the connection of unionization of the workplace and cooperatives, and find it somewhat challenging because the notion of unions as they evolved was to negotiate with an employer where there are two sides of the table, and the shift to think that we are the employers and we're doing it ourselves does a lot to change how people perceive their power as power against rather than power with. So I'm curious to hear more from the ILO what some of those changes, how we can support that as we teach the history of labor and how unions can maintain and strengthen their power in certain work settings. It's so important to protect our rights, and yet how do we also talk about running the things ourselves, so sort of owning the means of production, so to speak.
Thank you. I think that these are not mutually exclusive notions. On the one hand, we can embrace social dialogue and have the fact of workers communicating, entering into a dialogue with their employers in a direct way around a table and discussing issues. And on the other hand, we can come and support cooperatives because what it embraces, what it represents the most is these democratic values, and is the fact that when people come together around a certain issue because of a vision that they have of a common good, be it for the growth of their local economic activities, for the growth of their local economy, then big things can happen. And so, yes, perhaps it is true that the very concept, the very notion that we may have of worker-employer is different in that sense, but everybody is also a worker in the cooperatives. And so the values of decent work, which is really what we care about the most, and when we talk about providing better access to social protection, making sure that the wages are respected, making sure that occupational safety and health measures apply to everyone, all of these values, they need to apply equally to any cooperative, be it small or big, in a rural area or in an urban sector, and they need to apply to more, I would say, traditional or conventional workplace areas. So I think it is also with this lens that we have to look at the ways and the reason why we are so much supportive of the work of ICA and the work of the cooperatives, because of the impact that they can also have in terms of progressing towards more decent work, where we suffer from deficits of decent work, and also, and as it was said in many contexts, the opportunity that it provides to formalize the informal economy in so many sectors.
May I ask? Yeah. I also was very touched by the solidarity economy. And I would like to know more of where to get more information, because we are part of a global alliance of waste pickers, and we avoid at all the informality word, because we don't think we are informal. So we changed for popular economy. So whenever somebody uses informal, we said, no, it's popular economy. But today, when you say solidarity economy, I love it. So I will really like to explore more, because this may be more meaningful than popular economy versus profit-driven economy. Thank you.
No, sure. And then you will be able to see, and I am happy to share information, but you can find also online that more and more countries are actually endorsing or embracing this social and solidarity economy. It started in I think it started in Europe, in France, and other countries, but it's very strong. For example, South Africa has now launched a policy under the guidance of the Ministry of Labour for this social and solidarity economy, which is basically something that is extremely closely associated to cooperatives and also defies the old notion that the aim of every business is to maximize profit, something that everybody was told when they went to a business school. But the aim of business, and now we hear it from Bangladesh and so many other countries, that the aim of any business may not necessarily only be to maximize profit, but also we need to put in the equation all of those social aims. And so I think this is what the social and the solidarity economy has to provide, has to offer. And once again, it's a little bit of a movement that is actually that is advancing quite fast, and there's a lot of interest and requests from many countries to actually endorse that and to launch new policies or new strategies linked to it.
Again, this is Bhabishya again from Green Worker Cooperatives. From Green Worker Cooperatives, a nonprofit based in the Bronx, and it's just a comment. It's ironic for me. We are nonprofits that we try to incubate worker co-ops. We have some of them present here. I feel that in listening to this international communication about the successes in Nepal and in Cote d'Ivoire and in Guatemala, here in New York, I feel that we're like 100 years behind. And here we are celebrating International Cooperative Day here in New York City in probably one of the most, I guess, I won't say backwards, but we're really behind as far as understanding and trying to bring education and awareness to people here in New York City about the fact that worker cooperatives is a viable option to lift themselves out of poverty, to work with dignity, to promote democracy in the workplace. And it's such a challenge for us to just even talk about those ideas to people here in our communities. We serve mostly people of color and the immigrants who participate in our program. They get it. They just don't understand our context, because here in New York State, we don't have a financial system that supports it. We don't have a community necessarily. I mean, we are creating that community, and we are part of ICA, but it's still a tiny community that needs a lot of growth and development. And I just want to point out that here we are in this space in a city that probably knows so little about cooperatives and the impact that it has in the global economy.
Can I just make a comment just to complement what has been said, and starting from a question about education and then your intervention, and so my brain is working a bit. There is one request actually that we receive, one request in terms of needs and saying what actually is important for us in that sense, let's say, not to us as around the world, but in say what we need from the cooperators that we met so far. And is really the peer-to-peer sharing. Is learn from each other. And I think that is good context here to stress this. Because, I mean, all the cooperative reasons that we met, they are innovators in their context. But it's interesting to see that they actually build up that innovation also after being exposed to some kind of visit and seeing what others were been doing and readapting or readjusting in that context or reinventing in some way. There is a very interesting experience in California, the Arizmendi Coop, and it's fantastic, equal work for equal pay. So there's no board. There are 67 members. They all work on an equal way, earning equally, and then they also are creating new cooperatives. They're there they've been there for more than 60 years. So it works. But the model that they developed actually was keeping an eye on what, for instance, Mondragon was doing, Arizmendi, in fact, and what the Italian cooperatives were doing. So it's very interesting. And again, in Nepal, Ms. Parvati first had a visiting in Japan, and now the new members are visiting kibbutz in Israel. So just to say that I think today we are celebrating the fact that the cooperatives and cooperators have a big family, and perhaps it's good that this also institution can support and facilitate this exchange. And learning Brooklyn, Bronx, we are now visiting in Brooklyn again. We are filming a fantastic cooperative, perhaps you know, Up and Go, that is from my, and it's really a family, and when actually members really are trying to build up a vision. Perhaps it's definitely easier learning from practice and learning by doing and what the others are also doing, in addition to other type of training that they might request. Just to stress this.
Very, very quickly. When I was in Guatemala trying to start this TAG experience with families in deep poverty, we went to meet a lot of microcredit organizations. And we always received the same answer. We don't work with people coming from these too poor neighborhoods. So I said that because for me it's very important. We talked a lot about leave no one behind, but for me it's so important to think that for realize that it's fundamental to reach first with people who are farthest behind. This ambition is too in the Agenda 2030, but we often forgotten. And for me, it's vital. If we really want to arrive in 2030 without leaving no one behind, we have to start with people in a more difficult situation. And for me, it's a question too for cooperative economic, because sometimes we do it with people more dynamic and we forgot the people who are in a very difficult situation. So thank you.
Thank you. So I think we are going to come to a close soon. Just in closing, this has been a very good event, a very exciting. I think I've learned a lot, and I've really enjoyed, and I'm sure that you have as well, not only the movie but the discussion that has followed. I cannot really summarize all that was said, and I'm sure that maybe the purpose of the next movie will help in that sense. But cooperatives, they carry those important principles for all of us and for all of our societies. And it starts with the one member, one vote, and it goes on with the encouragement of democratic values through a decision-making process that involves everybody at the local level, that calls for equality and solidarity. And this is all fantastic, and at the same time, we know that there is more to be done so that cooperatives actually are places where you find the decent work that you want to find. And so that, for that, for us to be able to say that in every cooperative, everybody works, all the members are found to work in conditions of freedom, equality, security, and dignity, there's still a little bit of work. And so it's our common duty, I think, all of us in this room and beyond, to help promote cooperatives so that the working conditions of their members keep improving. And it's also our common interest to all of us, because we are now under the roof of the United Nations, and because promoting cooperatives helps move people out of poverty by mobilizing resources, increasing productivity, securing and diversifying their income. And really, at the end, it helps to leave no one behind. So with this, I will wish everyone once again a very happy International Day of Cooperatives. And I thank you very much, the chair and all the organizers for being part of this important event. Thank you so much.